Hello and welcome back to the podcast. So as usual, I'm joined by Owen
Hello.
and Finley,
Oh, what's up, squad?
and today we are talking about Inglorious Basterds, and it's a
Favorite movie?
2009. Yeah, okay. It's basically a bloodbath. Tarantino's sixth outing as a director, and I've got to say, like Christoph Waltz and like joined by Brad Pitt, just like the performances carry this film. But
Indeed.
as Finney said, it's his favourite film, one of mine. Owen loves it as well. So what did you guys think when you first saw it?
Which one of us? Owen or me?
Go for Finley.
Alright. Well, I got suggested it by Owen, right? And it was like my
You
first
did?
ever. Yeah, you suggested it to me. Do you
Oh,
remember?
I'm making amazing suggestions apparently.
Anyway, it
I
was
don't
like
know
my
about
first ever Tarantino movie, and I never really was into films, but this was the first film I actually sort of got into and watched, and I can't lie, I found it amazing from how tense they could make each scene, from the camera angles and the dialogue between each character. It was honestly amazing. Obviously the acting was amazing was it Christoph Waltz?
Christoph Waltz and Brad Pitt, yeah.
Finley, I'm glad to stop you there.
Yeah, what's the
Because
problem?
I believe one of your favourite films that got you into film was actually Birds of Prey, was it not? Or Joker?
Joker by Tom Phillips, yeah.
Wasn't it something along those lines?
No, actually, no. I would say in that film lesson, I didn't actually have a favorite film, so I thought of the latest film that I've actually seen.
Kathy Ann, as
That
it
was-
was.
Yeah, Kathy
And
Ann really
Birds of
carried
Prey.
that film.
No, I'm not saying they're bad films. They're very good films, but
Wow.
these films are definitely topped it.
They're
Birds
not
of
proper
Prey.
films. They're
Birds of
not
Prey
actually
may be
films.
good, but Joker, I refuse to let anyone tell me that's opinion from
Yeah,
me.
for people listening, right, if you're going to watch Joker, don't watch King of Comedy. Then
Watch
you've
King
effectively
of Comedy
watched
and Taxi Driver, where her Marshall Stacey both are basically Joker. And
Yep.
let's get back to Inglorious Basterds.
Yeah. So
So you were saying about Christoph Waltz.
but I would definitely say the gory bit side of Tarantino's movies is also my favorite, and I like that. Yeah. Owen, over to you. What was your first impression on the film?
So actually, this is actually very similar to Finley. This was wasn't my first like film, but it's my first Tarantino film that I watched. And this was like sort of the start of my sort of love for his films, obviously. And he's become one of my favourite filmmakers. And it started with Inglorious Basterds. And it's not my favourite by him, now I've seen his other work, but I can definitely appreciate just how sort of brave and sort of bold it is as a film. I think like originally this was going to be like a sort of a mini series, like a 12-hour sort of like the Queen's Gambit or something. And it's actually quite a long film. I forgot how long. It's like I think 2 hours 40, 2 hours 30. And it's a very sort of grand film, and I think we said it already. I'm just talking about it more, but Hans Lander, I think is one of like the best written villains and characters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Just how like much depth his character has, how well he's played by Christoph Waltz,
and sneaky at the same time when he's
terrifying as well.
Terrifying,
I mean I'll move on to that opening sequence of just how in that like with only dialogue he managed to show how much of a psychopath this man is, and how he gets into your head and like manipulates you, and that's
It's not even that.
it sets a standard for the rest of the film.
It's the filmmaking in general, just in that whole opening sequence, just like one of the greatest 12 minutes. Just because every shot has a purpose in that scene. Because like Hans Lander, everything he does just takes control of the scene. So if he's like asking for a drink, or like asking to take the girls outside or whatever, in every shot he's framed centrally. He's always kind of seen as the most important.
It's also shown for like props as well. You know, here's that giant pipe that like Sherlock Holmes uses compared to the farmer's dinky one, and how
I would say
his like
milk. Honestly,
Yeah, because milk is usually quite symbolic of kind of innocence in the thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say it. Yeah.
Threatening.
As he gets closer and closer to talk about the Jews underneath the floorboards, like his face fills up the frame more and more, and we sort of like zooming on this helpless farmer who can't do anything. Now. It's like under his control. And also how he also, I think I've talked about this before in the previous podcasts, but Hitchcock's suspense trick of telling the audience there's a bomb under the table and trying to maintain a conversation on top of the table, and he does that with that shot that goes down on the floorboards of the people underneath, and it does really set the standards for like. I think it's one of his best opening sequences, and one of the best opening sequences of all time. Of how it establishes the world with the titles of Once Upon a Time in Nazi occupied France, but just letting you know that this is going to be different from what you're used to, and showing the cruelty of this world he's made. That's obviously based on real life.
So obviously this film is it tackles quite challenging topics, obviously, with it being about like Nazis and Nazi killers. Did you guys find this sort of funny? I mean,
yes.
You know when I thought that this was like the best like entrance scene, when I think, what was the American group called again? They were called the
Bastards.
The Bastards, yes, sorry. Yeah, they were called the Bastards. And
it's the name of the film, but...
It's the name of the film, yes, okay. The guy that comes out of the tunnel with the bat. I thought that was an amazing sequence.
The
Eli Roth.
Eli Roth. And, you know, it was a great way to introduce the character.
A little fun fact before we move on about the opening sequence. After I'm looking at the screenplay right now, but there's meant to be a little scene after Shoshana ran away, and she says all about Shoshana, and I'm glad he took it out. He said there's a whole monologue he has after she's run away, when he's driving away from the farmhouse, about like saying like there's a lot of exposition where he's like she's a young girl, no food, no shelter, no shoes, and she's gonna die tonight, something like that, and I'll never see her again, because that's why they let her run away. And I'm really glad you took that out, but I was wondering, do you guys think, because he says, it's kind of toyed with whether he's a man of his word or not. And in the opening sequence, he says, like, if you tell me you have the Jews onto your floorboards, then I'll let you and your family live. Do you think he kills the farmer after the scene ends or not?
Yeah, I would say this, because he went against what their rules were basically and lied to him.
He's sort of a man of his words, isn't he? And he also like he did say, "I'll let you live," if you just point out where they are. Obviously, much more menacing than that.
Yeah, true. You know the girl that got away. Yeah. I didn't actually realize it was the girl later on in the movie.
You know what? Same. No, we're not the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as soon as I realized when they were at the dinner table, and he does his like this certain technique that made it so much more suspenseful. And I could tell there was a difference. I was trying to think where the links are, and then I was like, oh wait, that could be the girl that ran away. So that made it a lot more. Yeah.
That scene, I was going to say, that scene is also a really good example of how I talked about earlier, how he takes over the situation the scenes he's in. He's like, well, when they order the strudel, he's constantly interrupting her by saying like, wait for the cream, like sort of temptingly, and like and he also occupies the frame more. You know when he just says like towards the end, I think I recognize you from somewhere, and there's that long pause he has. It shows it again shows how manipulative he is as a general. And I hate to say it, he's a very good general. He does his job quite well.
But there's a lot of scenes like that. There's the opening scene. There's that scene. There's a scene where he's not in it. There was a scene when he's down at the bar, and there's the German and the Americans and uncover.
Oh yeah.
That scene is also really suspenseful, and then obviously the cinema scene. So there's a lot of scenes in this film that are like keeps you awake and keeps you like, oh no, they're going to get caught and all this kind of stuff.
It's really interesting.
I just wanted to talk about the scene in the bar. Now, in that scene, you can, not many people first time watching it realize that when the British undercover agent said, "Can I get 3 beers?" He did it with his he did it with his index.
I mean, they can't see us, but
he did it index to ring finger, which is how we do it.
Yeah.
But in Germany, it's thumb to middle finger.
But, yeah. And he recognised that, and then you think, why did he lash out? You know, there was no reason to. First time watching it, but if you go over it, then you're like, oh, that's why they lashed out. And it's weird how Tarantino implements this, that even just thumbs, how that could, you know, ruin a whole
Initially,
situation.
I thought, well, when I watched it for the first time, I thought it was that he drank the whiskey because it was like Scottish and it wasn't German. But then when I watched it for like the 3rd or 4th time, I was like, oh, wait a second. And I think this one, and Daniel, I think
that scene is like a massive reason why Tarantino's filmmaking is so clever, because so you have the scene with kind of Hans Lander and like Linda Bastards and everything like that, and then suddenly you've just got this like whole 40-minute sequence totally underground with characters you've never met, but it still keeps it like so gripping somehow. And it's definitely one of the like massively strongest points about like Tarantino's use of dialogue, because this was also the first Tarantino film that I saw, and it was like definitely the dialogue is what he's known for, but it really stands out, especially in that scene, how he just like builds the tension up until basically ending with a bloodbath, which seems in more of his films seems to be a pretty common theme among his things. Just
I mean,
I
do have one like thing about the film I don't really like, but that's why it's not my favorite film. It's difficult. It's like the top 3, but I feel like I had a really hard time trying to like sort of connect to these characters and have like real sympathy for them. Like, you know, Shoshana. I understood the situation she was in, but I didn't really like feel that sort of tension there. I suppose tension in every other scene, obviously, with like, you know, who's going to shoot first and all that stuff. But again, I hate to talk about the screenplay again. But in the screenplay, there's a whole backstory to Shoshana, how she got to the cinema. Like, there's whole new characters. Like, I think she references Madame Mimi Yu, who I don't know what's her name, like, who owns the cinema. There's a whole backstory behind that, and how she met Marcel, and how she came to own the cinema, which is completely cut out of the film. And I don't know whether they would have filmed that or not, because I feel like I would have liked to see like a director's cut maybe. And I think, but apart from that, I think the characters are really, really strong in this film.
Yeah. I mean, as you said originally, Tarantino wanted like a 12-part miniseries, because he started writing the script like, I think it was one of like the earliest scripts he started writing when he came up with the idea and whatever. And then like the problem he had was no one to cast for Hans Lander, and he basically said, if we can't cast this role, then we're not going ahead with the film. It's done. And then, like, just at that moment, you had Christoph Waltz come in and basically give like the best performance ever. Just, I mean, even because he knows loads of languages as well, so that definitely helps with the production side of the film.
What I didn't realise about Christoph Waltz, this is like he was not new to accents, but he like tried so many accents for like years at this point, like auditions that have failed and all that stuff. And then I think it's like his first major role. They got an Oscar immediately, and then he got a second Oscar for Django Unchained. And then he got like roles with Tim Burton and like other acclaimed directors. So like Tarantino really, you know, put him into the mainstream audience's eyes with this film.
Yeah, and it's about kind of
like a sort of nobody actor came to do this.
Speaking about him kind of winning the award, this. Like that was obviously fully deserved, like, because I mean, it's one of the best performances ever for just any villain. I think a lot of people, they compare it to the Nazi in Schindler's List, who I forgot the name of, but
is that Ray Fiennes' character?
Yeah, the one that Ray Fiennes plays. But I think they're both compared as kind of like two, because that was like one of Ray Fiennes' like earliest performances in Schindler's List. And then obviously, you kind of got the similarity with that and Christoph Waltz. So it's really maybe just like every new actor needs to play a Nazi. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. to a point that Dan made, actually, you said it was a bit of, the movie had a bit of like comedic sides, considering obviously it's about Nazis and World War II. The scene I want to suggest is the when they're in the cinema and they're talking to Christoph Waltz's character, Hans.
Oh, in the lobby.
In the lobby, and obviously they're talking in Italian, but they don't actually speak Italian. I honestly, as I'm watching that, I just couldn't stop laughing because it was just it was an amazing scene, and I loved how in this film Tarantino has implemented something so like intense, and he's added that intense bit of like Nazi and always been captured by all these Nazis on these Jews and all that stuff, and then he implements this like funny kind of side. It almost relieves the tension, but also it's weird because he implements it with it being funny and suspenseful, and that mix worked really well for me when I was watching the film.
I mean, that's sort of a running theme in his films. I mean, I'll talk about Jones' like filmography. Like film Pulp Fiction, incorporating comedy into really tense moments. And I mean, this one was the first of his that is sort of like the changing history revenge film. Because from this we had obviously Inglorious Basterds, which changed the sort of the Nazis in World War II. Django Unchained, which changed like had his own story of slavery, and then now Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which changes the story of Sharon Tate. I mean, like, well, when Once Upon, I'll talk about that a bit, but when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out, people liked it, but they said like it was a very mixed response. But weirdly, it's one of my favorite Tarantino films. For like, it's sort of a culmination of all his work and how he sort of in all these revenge films, he always like relays what like the general public wants to do to these horrible people. Like in Once Upon a Hollywood, you have like literally have Brad Pitt just like beating these cult people to like a pulp. Then you have in Inglorious Basterds setting Nazis on fire and shooting them from above and like making like presenting them as helpless. It's like he's sort of taking out revenge on all these like horrible figures in history.
I think it like perfectly fits just Tarantino's like style of over the top violence, and like he says in multiple interviews like he does it because it's fun, which is a little bit worrying. And like I've done Owen's that were about laughing at like extreme violence, but you know.
Oh my god! This will never end. No, but
yeah, Tarantino's style of kind of extreme violence and just like blood everywhere. I just think it like. It's a running theme in all his films, and it definitely works.
He's one of my favourite directors. Like he's like definitely top 3 directors for me, but like I don't really like him as a person that much. He's a bit creepy.
Yeah, he's a bit of a psycho in real person in life. In real life.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to meet him in real life.
I'd like to meet him definitely, but I wouldn't like to be like around him.
Have you seen the video? Have you seen the video of him with the photographer? What do you call it? Paparazzi.
What's going on? Is that what's going on here, Steve? We get the Starbucks.
He's got the coffee.
What's going on here? And he's like, it slaps him or something.
Yeah, he like slaps the camera out with his hand.
I mean, fair enough. Paparazzi, like they can. Yeah, I get so annoyed when they like invade people's personal space. I hate to like.
It's just weird because he's not. He's a well-known director, but they don't. I feel like directors don't normally get loads of paparazzi. Well, I don't know.
You don't
think they do?
He is actually an actor in he wrote a film called Dust Called, and he has cameos from Django as well. But he like a star more in his film he wrote with George Clooney called From Dusk Till Dawn, and like this is what I mean. I don't have a problem with this, but it's quite well known that it's like sort of a foot fetish, and then like in From Dusk Till Dawn, like there's a scene of him just licking and this woman's foot, and it's so like cringe-inducing.
But he was obviously acting in his first film Reservoir Dogs as well, so he's done his fair share of acting. He's definitely well known for directing now.
He took acting classes before he became a director.
But like that's what he's well known for now is blockbusters.
Wasn't in Inglorious Basterds they had a foot scene of when Christopher was taking off I think the actor's shoe, regardless of, and I think that was Tarantino's hands on the shoe, but regardless of, you know, the hands wise, there is still shots of feet in the film, and you can see that throughout his films. So, Owen, you want to say?
So you are sort of right in that scene, but in that scene, I think it's his hand when he's strangling Bridget von Hammerschmidt. Easy mistake to make, I think this is what I'm saying. He's a bit creepy as a person. I think I may be completely wrong again in saying this, but I think he wants to feel what it's like to strangle somebody.
That's weird.
But I feel like it's just a bit creepy. It's just a bit creepy that he wanted to do that. But I like your point, Finley. I think initially at one point there's this tracking shot of Shoshana's feet, just barefoot. Yeah, which is just no. But let's move on from this creepy foot fetish thing. Daniel, I think you want to say something.
Music. How?
We love the music in the film.
In the film.
Well, it's not. There wasn't
it wasn't really a standout track.
Music. It wasn't a standout track, but obviously you've got to make a scene more suspenseful with the music. So I think they did that quite well.
I think it actually achieves that without music. Because in that bar scene, there's no music in the scene.
Yeah, there's no.
But, I feel like the music in this film is very it's always cut off really abruptly by action sequences or stuff like that. But I think that's more the choice of the editor. I think her name is Sally. I think she was Tarantino's editor for his first 6 films before she passed away from Django Unchained. But I think there's a really cool
behind the scenes
scene of all the actors saying "Hi, Sally." So because Sally was all edited by herself in her room, so there was a "Hi, Sally" cheer her up and all that stuff, which I think is quite wholesome, especially for Tarantino. That's a very wholesome thing for him to do.
Yeah, so I think the ending was definitely a really effective point that they use the music, just because obviously Hans Lander eventually gets what he's what's coming to him. Basically, he gets that swastika carved into his head. So I think that's definitely because the music just kicks in at the perfect point of the credits. And one thing that Tarantino is amazing at is
the needle drops,
just putting music into any specific point. It just so perfectly works, and he does it through all his films.
It's really interesting to watch this filmography and see how he's progressed in sort of improving this needle drop. In Reservoir Dogs, it's sort of there, and it works with other dogs. But I think I saw a video once that it's pretty right. It's most effective, and it's at its best with his last film. It's getting better and better with every single film he makes.
I'd say his best one's actually got to be Hateful Eight. Out of the few Tarantino films I've seen.
No. Definitely not from the needle drop. It's a good film, don't get me wrong, but for the needle drop, I don't think it is.
In my personal opinion, it is.
Well, your opinion's just wrong. Finley!
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. I do agree to disagree. But yeah.
Okay, guys, thanks for watching the podcast. This is now the end of the podcast. So before we end, actually, I'm gonna get the reviews from Daniel and Owen. So, out of 10, what would you give this film, Daniel?
Definitely a 9 for me. It's not. I think it's definitely Tarantino's best out of the ones I've seen, but there's definitely some flaws there. But yeah, overall, really good film.
Pretty good, Owen.
I would say I think a 9 or a 9.5. I mean, at the same Daniel, I think there's definitely better films in this filmography, like Pulp Fiction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can still respect how good of a film it is. It's basically a masterpiece.
And probably for me, I'd definitely give it a 10. First film that I loved, and it is in my top 2. So I'll give that a 10 out of 10 from me.
Nice.
If you guys want to like and subscribe,
leave suggestions in the comments and follow us on Instagram.
Leave suggestions in the comments and
thank you.
Instagram, ThreeCameramen.
ThreeCameramen.
Thank you for watching.
Twitter, Instagram. See you guys in the next one.
See ya.
Bye.